If you recently had a total knee replacement, this video is for you, especially if you want to start using a rower to help with your rehab. Your surgeon may have recommended to do activities like rowing or walking or biking after a total knee replacement, and I'm going to show you how to use a rower in the early stages of your total knee replacement and at the later stages of your recovery. So let's get started. Now realize everyone is at a different stage with their total knee replacement. You're not going to hop on a rower the first week after your total knee replacement. You can hardly bend your knee. But if you've finished physical therapy, you might feel like you have your range of motion and can get started, but I don't want you to jump on a rower immediately after a knee replacement or 6 weeks after a knee replacement and hurt yourself. The range of motion that you have may be sufficient, but you want to ease into this position because we really do get a lot of bend in our knee, and I don't want to force anything right away. So the first exercise is going to use a chair. And so I'm not even going to sit in the sliding stool. I'm going to position a chair directly over the rower. And so when I do that, it allows me to position my surgical leg on top of that seat, and I can ease into a heel slide, which you're probably familiar with as one of the exercises your physical therapist probably gave you. And so what this allows you to do is that full knee extension and as much knee flexion as you can comfortably. And I like using the stool or the sliding seat on the rower because it provides a really nice glide and it makes it really comfortable as you work into this heel slide back and forth. You can aim for repetitions of 20 to 30 at a time, or you could even set a timer for 1 to 2 minutes and take a little break and do this 3 to 4 times. The nice thing about this exercise is that it can be appropriate for someone early on in a total knee replacement. Let's say within the first couple of weeks, you can easily do this exercise. But also if you've completed physical therapy and you're at home and you just want to make sure that you have good range of motion for this rowing exercise, this is a great exercise for you as well. So whether you are finished with therapy or just starting, work on this heel slide using the rower seat as an assisted glide. Okay, the next exercise uses this same setup, so we don't have to change positions. This is called a Patella Glide or an assisted Patella Glide. Your patella is the kneecap, and so while we're positioned here with our foot on the seat and our leg relaxed, we can feel the patella or the kneecap, and we can work that back and forth. So that's a Patella Glide exercise. It can help relieve some of that stiffness and that kneecap because we need the mobility of that kneecap. That kneecap needs to move as we bend and extend our leg. The exercise is as follows. We take our hand and we grasp right at the bottom of our kneecap. And what will happen is as we extend our knee, we can pull that kneecap towards our body. And what that does is it helps to allow for a nice smooth glide of the kneecap because when we extend the leg, naturally that kneecap moves forwards. But after a total knee replacement or injury to the leg, we may have a hard time recruiting this quadriceps muscle, that thigh muscle, which ultimately pulls on that kneecap. That's the natural motion of where that quad and the kneecap meet. So if that leg is not strong enough to pull the kneecap up, a little assistance can be a real nice relief to help relieve some pain and just to overall improve the mobility of that knee. So take your hand and glide that kneecap up as you work into those heel slides. Be sure to tighten that quad muscle as much as you can, especially at that terminal knee extension, at the very end where your leg is straight. Tighten up that quadriceps muscle as much as you can. For this exercise, you can work this 10 to 15 times. You can repeat it on the other side if you want to feel how a non-surgical leg performs this similar exercise, give you an idea of how that kneecap should move, and you can repeat the entire sequence 3 to 4 times. Hey, before we move on to the next point, if you're finding this video to be helpful, I would love it if you give it a like below. It means a lot that you're here, and I hope that you're finding this content really valuable. Okay, the third way that we can use a rower after a total knee replacement is to use it in a modified position. Now, just know that the rower itself is very low to the ground. I have another chair right here and it requires 90 degrees of knee flexion. And if I just go sit in this rower it's going to require a lot more than 90 degrees of knee flexion. So don't just sit into this rower, whether you are a few weeks after a total knee replacement or you're completely done with therapy. You don't want to injure yourself getting down into this position. So my recommendation is to have a chair right next to the rower. So this chair is positioned outside of the rower, and I'm going to say this leg, my right leg, is the surgical leg. And I'm going to position that straight out. And so my goal here is to transfer from this seat to this seat without causing increased pain or injury to the surgical leg. So to do that, I'll have one hand on the chair, one hand on the seat, and I can gradually get into the seat without any injury. And I kept that leg as straight as I could. My other leg can go right into the machine. So I'm actually going to keep this right leg, or the surgical leg, outside of the machine. And I can get right into a rowing motion and put most of the pressure through my left leg, still use the arms, and let that right leg just go along for the ride. Now you can notice that I get about 90 degrees here. If you cannot get 90 degrees, but you're interested in rowing in this position, just put your leg out a little bit further. So you can see as I row, I don't quite bend it to 90 degrees, but I allow for that motion in my leg. Eventually, you can start to bring that leg closer and closer and get more of a bend. Now, my preference in this position is to have you increase the intensity by putting more pressure through the ground and still doing that rowing technique, but I can put a little pressure through the ground so that both legs are actively working. Once you're able to inch that leg up close to the other so that the bending is symmetrical, you can try putting that leg into the rower, and this is the fourth way to use the rower, as a half or modified pull. So I'm going to position both legs, strap them in, and from this position I'm going to go about halfway just so that I'm comfortable with how much it's bending, and if I feel a small pull, that's okay. I don't want to feel any sharp pains as I'm doing this. And so we're going into our full range of motion. You're in control of this, so you control how much resistance is happening through the water by how fast you pull on the handles. And that's why I like a water rower like this. I'm using the Ergata water rower, and you can see my full review in the description below. But with this water rower, I'm in control of the intensity. And if I want to get more bend, I just allow it to go forward a little bit more. As you work into this fourth progression of using a rower, aim to perform 1 to 2 minutes. Don't overdo things. Just gradually increase your intensity and the time that you spend rowing every day by a little bit, maybe 20 to 30 seconds, and eventually you'll be able to row for 3, 4, 5 minutes or more at a time and really improve your cardiovascular endurance and your strength and your range of motion. It's a great exercise for someone who's early out of a total knee replacement if you follow those instructions for the modifications of using this rower. And then also it's great for someone who's out of physical therapy who wants to improve all of those aspects that we just talked about. Hey, be sure to subscribe to the channel and to watch this next video. We'll go through all of these exercises in time. So I'm going to be doing them with you, and we'll work through this exercise routine together. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.